Birmingham has a legacy of Black entrepreneurship that people don't even realize was nationally significant. We want to perpetuate that history. Entrepreneurship gave Black folks the freedom to live, move, and be. Fourth Avenue was a place Black folks could just be. We contributed to the growth of Birmingham. But now that Birmingham is on a new path, we have to ask, who gets to be Birmingham? Hello, everyone. Happy snow day to you. I hope that you are enjoying yourself, getting work done, and enjoying sort of hopefully the last vestige of winter. Welcome to our How Do I series by Urban Impact. I'm Elijah Davis, and we're excited to have you today. We kicked off this series last Tuesday, really wanting to just dial in with business owners and folks just like yourself around some critical issues and just have kitchen table conversations. So we're really excited in the Fourth Avenue Business District and in the city of Birmingham. We have business owners and experts right within our locale that are ready and set to serve you through business. And we wanted to share some of that. So today is How Do I #Get Business Insurance. And there's no person better in the city to help us with this than the great Kirby Insurance. And today we have Kirby Insurance with Miss Carol Kirby. So y'all welcome her today. How you doing, Miss Kirby?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you.
So I believe that you can introduce yourself better than I can. So I'll let you just say a few words about who you are, what you mean to the district, your business, and your journey.
Okay. Well, thank you. I want to first say thank you to Urban Impact and to Be Birmingham for the invitation to participate in today's informational web session. As many people know, the Fourth Avenue District is very dear and near to my heart because my fundamental starting years began in this very area. Having said that, I know that part of the story that you want to tell is about entrepreneurship. But, in fact, my story of business ownership is actually a bit different in the sense that I was not the original founder of the business, but rather consider myself as a legacy sustainer and a business reorganizer. My exposure to business operations began around 1964. When I started observing my grandmother and my grandfather and my father, who were all business owners. And, though at that young age in 1964, I was 8 and not actually able to take part in the business, but I did set up my own junior executive desk area. And I began emulating what I saw them doing. So I established my office within their offices. Fast forward, during my high school and college years, I was taught the accounting system of the Kirby business by my father, and subsequently the details of underwriting insurance risk. Now, my father was quite intent and focused on me coming into the insurance business. So I did study insurance at Clark College and Atlanta University while I was at Spelman, and I later obtained my insurance license. But, as many children do, I wanted to explore other waters, so to speak. So I accepted a position with AmSouth Bank in branch administration and elevated to branch VP loan officer in less than a year. But following that short stint in corporate America, it was the untimely death of my father that brought me back to my training grounds. And I had to make a very unexpected decision to continue the family business. And as scary as it was at that age of 23, with the encouragement of my grandparents who were still living at the time, I accepted the challenge because it was important for me to continue the legacy business, and to continue to serve all of those people who had been so loyal to the Kirby Agency for many years. And to this point, I have been blessed to be able to sustain the business now for 41 years. And of course, that then extends the history of the Kirby Insurance Agency to now 58 years. So that's my journey in this short story. And perhaps we'll have to have another session to talk about the hills and the valleys of that journey.
Well, absolutely, and that's an incredible journey. I believe your dad was the second property and casualty Black in the city of Birmingham.
That's correct. That's correct. He actually trained under the Alexander Insurance Agency and later decided to open his office. And we were, for many years, the only two property and casualty insurance agencies in this Birmingham metro area serving during those times.
Absolutely.
As independent owners.
As independent, absolutely. And you also are the first African American president of the Independent Association of Insurance for Alabama, correct?
That's correct. I had that honor, and it was an interesting one because, as you can imagine, that was back in, I guess, the early 80s, and I was taking on the leadership of an organization that was made up primarily majority males. And our membership at that time was probably 100, 120. So as an African-American female leading that organization, you can imagine.
Absolutely. And that's what's so inspiring, a trendsetter and a trailblazer and a sustainer. I think that's what is so exciting about having you on today, and just all that you bring to the district for years. And the city of Birmingham actually has recognized Kirby Insurance Agency is in their inaugural piece of legacy businesses. And so I'm just really excited to have you speak to us today about sort of the core elements of what is business insurance, why it's important, why is that a part of our business plan and business model and business operations. I think, in all of the businesses that we serve, from food to events and to, manufacturing, we see that this is a key issue that we love to have expounded upon briefly. And so we're going to turn it over to Ms. Kirby. She's going to do what she does best and talk about the fundamentals of business insurance. If you have comments, make sure you put them in the chat. We will attend to them, toward the end of her presentation, and we're going to make this fun and interactive. And then don't forget to like and share this broadcast just as you're seeing it. If you like what you've seen so far, make sure that we're getting this out just to many people. So with that being said, we'll love to move on with Ms. Kirby.
Okay, thank you, Elijah. This webinar was advertised as "How do I get business insurance?" which I suppose prompted most of you to include us on your schedule today. But before we speak to that one matter, I have been asked to address some other basic questions. And so let's get started with those. And the primary question that I was asked to address is, what is business insurance? And you might take it either as a textbook definition or a simple definition, but in fact, it's a written agreement referred to as the policy, consummated by the exchange of premium payment with terms and conditions for another entity to accept the risk to pay for losses caused by your negligence or direct damage to your property resulting from a covered loss. Now, this is not to have you expect that payments will be endless. And that's why we have policy limits and exclusions, because it's put there for the sole purpose of creating a stop point, so to speak, for the insurance carrier. And I might add that in today's climate, we're seeing more and more exclusions and limitations being added to the policies. As you can imagine, the COVID matter has hit our industry. And it was just one of those expected events that they have not reserved for. They don't quite yet know what to do with it. So we are seeing all kinds of exclusions being placed on policies until that issue is resolved or worked through. But very simply, I want to say to you, when you purchase business insurance, you're actually creating a layer of protection to avoid or limit the risk of depleting the financial assets of your business. Remember, I said you have passed that responsibility off to another entity in exchange for payment of your premium. Can you imagine having signed a loan for a new building and it goes up in flames after 30 days of your signing? Now, in this instance, in the absence of having an insurance company that has set aside reserves to restore the building, what recourse can you imagine that you would have? First, to restore the bank's collateral, but equally important, to restore your business operations. So that then maybe in your mind, hopefully creates the concern and the motivation, now that you understand what insurance does, is for you to be sure that you in fact have or ascertain insurance, okay? So to the very next question, what are the basic types of insurance? And we have them displayed here on the screen for you. They're property, liability, and bonds. And I have bulleted these really just to show you what the primary framework of commercial insurance is. And having done that, I want you to know that it's important to understand that all layers of commercial and business insurance evolve from the framework of these three primary areas. For instance, let's look at liability coverage. When requesting the coverage, you need to be specific about what your need is, or have someone help you sort through that. For instance, liability, whether it's for your premises, whether it's liability for vehicle operations, whether it's liability for workers' injuries or errors in what you're rendering in terms of financial services. Mismanagement of employment matters is a hot topic right now, or the liability of your corporate directors and officers if that is a part of your operations. And this is just to cite a few examples of how these primary coverage layers can evolve to attach to more specific policy types. And as for bonds, you need to clarify if you need to protect against dishonest acts or if you need to warrant performance of services. You know, sometimes I think when people say, well, you need to get bond coverage, well, you have no clue of really what you're looking for. But if you can keep in mind those two things to ask yourself, are you trying to protect against a dishonest act, or are you trying to warrant the services that you're performing? And to the last question, why is business insurance important? It reduces the likely exposure of a business having to directly absorb loss of assets or respond to legal liability claims as the first source of payment. I want to say that to you again. It reduces the likely exposure of a business having to directly absorb loss of assets to respond to legal liability claims. Understanding, however, this could be instances when, or there could be instances where the coverage falls short of the legal demands for payment. And what do I mean by that? Let's say that you have a policy that has $1 million limit, but an award, a judgment for your negligence could be $2 million. And so this is the challenge in insurance. It creates a challenge of, you know, how do I know how much coverage you need? How much should I buy? And, you know, unfortunately, we're not able to really ask that because there really is no limit to what you can be charged with in terms of your liability. The question becomes, where do you want to leverage that in terms of having to pay for the coverage and to maybe absorb some risk by doing some risk management things? So now that we've touched on the basics of what insurance provides and why it's important, let's look at the next consideration and what this webinar was actually advertised on. How do you approach applying for business insurance? How do you go about it? And again, we're displaying a screen here that is just some of my suggested points. So the 4 fundamental steps that should guide your journey to seeking business insurance coverage begins with number 1, start the process early. 60 days before your coverage is needed is what's suggested. And in today's climate, probably even 90 days. Seek the services of an experienced business insurance agent. An experienced agent can likely help you uncover risks you may have overlooked. And 3, prepare to present detail the scope of your business operations. That is, communicate what it is that you do. This is significant in identifying the kind of coverage that is appropriate for your business operations. And lastly, if you have coverage already and you're just preparing to shop and compare, you probably have an advantage, or I won't say probably, you do have an advantage, because it certainly does help in terms of the search. But you must be prepared to share your prior history and your prior coverage information. Now, as you consider these fundamental steps, I'm going to double back just a bit to share some tips that I think you should be mindful of. Going back to the matter of starting early and giving yourself 60 days before coverage is needed. As I said, you have to understand that many workers are working remotely now, and so the turnaround time for the underwriting reviews and processes is getting longer. And so you need to take that in mind. Don't think that you can walk in and says, well, I need coverage tomorrow, and it's just not in your best interest to wait till the very last minute. And I want to say that everybody gets excited about opening a new business and what have you. But I want to suggest to you that before you even launch your first opening announcement, make sure that you have your insurance coverage decided and that it's in force. Don't make the announcement and start going and then search for your insurance. Do that well in advance. And for those of you who are now going to, cyber business operations, certainly before you take the leap to have a website presence, have your insurance in place. And I want to say on websites, as a word of caution, be careful about what you post on that site, because insurance carriers will Google to determine if you are doing more than what your application discloses. I can't tell you how many times, I've had underwriters come back and say, well, it says here on the website that they do X, Y, and Z. Well, the unfortunate thing is the applicant may not have even told me about that. But you want to make certain that what you represent out there in cyberspace is accurate and it doesn't overstate what you do. It's, as I said, quite often I get calls for quotes when the business plan is already out the gates and the service delivery is full speed ahead. But the consideration of insurance was placed last on the list of things to do. And now the business owner discovers that the cost of the insurance is greater than what the operating budget can handle, or that the planned operations present risks that are not cost effective to insure in relationship to the activity's income potential. So, along with starting the search early, I want to encourage you to pause and consider all operating costs and the risk exposures. And this is true when planning any business venture. Step 2, seek the services of an experienced business insurance agent. Commercial and business insurance is very different in terms of underwriting exposures for loss and pairing it with proper coverage, which is exactly why selecting an experienced agent is most important. However, with today's technology, I do want to acknowledge the fact that, online insurance purchasing is an advancing and perhaps enticing option, even as it respects your use of time and what may appear to be favorable costs. But yet again, pause and consider this fact. Does that option come with review of coverage needs and consultation of options? Or does it really just give you an attractive price? So at this point, the question that you should be asking yourself, long term, might it be better to have access to an insurance consultant that can help sort through appropriate coverage needs? Or perhaps even have you rethink what you thought was a very good service delivery plan. But after you have had conversation with your consultant, you decide that the operations or activity is simply not affordable to insure. And I can't tell you how many times I have been in that situation. Case in point, I have young entrepreneurs come in and say, oh, well, I know how to do roofing. Well, once we quote it, he says, well, I'm not going to be able to afford that. So maybe I'll just go back and do the carpentry and stick with that. Because in relationship to the income potential and the cost to cover that exposure, it just does not balance out to the benefit of that business owner. And so having considered all those things, that perhaps and hopefully at that point, you can make a strategic and informed decision as to whether you should delay or include the service on your list of deliverables. And step 3, here is where your journey gains some momentum. This is when you're actually going to the next action point. As I indicated before, you're going to need some baseline information to give to your agent. And we're showing on the next screen a list of the various things by bullet points that you will need to gather to help this process run smoothly. I'm not going to go and run through all of them. Perhaps you will take the opportunity to go back and look at this web session later, or maybe just take a screenshot of them for your tip notes as to information that you should be providing. But most important, and you should know this in your business operations, is what is your projected revenue over a 12-month period? And what is projected payroll if that applies to your operation? And you certainly should be able to identify what the value of your property is. And I'm speaking specifically of your business contents, your computers, your chairs, and all of the furnishings in your office. You should identify the value of those so that you can properly insure them. And I want to say that another key factor, and sometimes applicants get a little irritated with us on this matter, but carriers are really focusing in on the age of buildings and the updates to the roof, the wiring, the plumbing, and the HVAC systems. So you need to gather that information as you either consider leasing property or even buying property, because these will also be questions that you'll need to be able to respond to in the application process. And please, I can't emphasize this enough. Fully disclose all services you provide or contemplate providing. You should always consult with your carrier if the direction of your business model or services change from what you indicated during this process. You want to avoid making the mistake that once you have an insurance policy, whatever services or operations you later decide to do will be covered. Don't make that mistake. Classic examples of this would be the church that decides to operate a daycare, and that was not a part of what they disclosed in the initial application. Or the contractor who does carpentry, but later decides he can also cut down trees because he can capture a little bit more revenue if he takes on that job. But that's not something that he disclosed in the application process. And he is likely not covered because in liability coverage, it is specific to identifying the operations, the rated operations on the policy. And in the instance of nonprofit or barbershop operation or even accounting office that say maybe decides to host a carnival or concert or take on adding a food truck as the new ventures are coming about as a new operation. Don't do this without consulting with an agent. The old saying that says no before you push the go button, it has real relevance here. Understand and know that you can be covered before you push that go button to whatever your next great idea is. So as I bring this to a close, I want you to always remember this. Tops on the list of person you must be in full disclosure to are your doctor, your lawyer, and your insurance agent, for their guidance and recommendations are directly driven by what you make known to them. We can only help you if you help us understand what it is you do, what your goals are, and what your motivations or what your target points are in insurance coverage. I thank you for your attention this afternoon. That was just a capsule of the whole big topic of insurance, which we probably could go on and have many, many more sessions and about details. But just wanted to give you that just kind of boxed in view of some primary and fundamental things. And I hope that your takeaway today is food for thought and helpful tips that will help you in your search process. Along with remembering when you're shopping for the insurance business, why don't you consider contacting Kirby Insurance Agency, Inc., where we have experienced agents ready to work for you. We welcome your emails to initiate quote inquiries at kirbyinsure@aol.com. And yes, I still hold on to the AOL.com. I know it makes me seem like a dinosaur, but some of us, just get stuck on what we like, okay? So we're here to serve you, and we do accept office meetings by appointment. And I'll close with this, as is our branded tagline: call us today because tomorrow may be too late. Elijah, I come back to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kirby. That was fantastic. Just great overview. I love the examples that you had in there. So we've got a few minutes left. Put your comments, put your questions in the chat. We've got room for maybe 2 or 3 before we get out. But I do have a quick just scenario to bounce off you. So let's say I'm a restaurant. I'm a meet and three place. I lease a space, for about $1,000 a month. I'm a meet and three place. What do I need as a business owner? Just in general, do I, or if I'm a contractor, because one of the things that, you talked about is, making sure that the coverage matches, which I think is great. A lot of people are now discovering they can't get permits or bid without insurance. So, just speak toward just that scenario, if you would.
Okay, I'm going to start with the first operation that you mentioned, and that's a restaurant. And of course, you mentioned in this, we're going to play this out as the business is leasing the facility. So of course, the landlord is going to want you to have premises liability protection. You're going to, and that likely will be based and considered based on the insurance market, on your receipts from the sale of food, or your square footage that you occupy. Another influencing factor there is going to be the construction of the building, because when you mention restaurants, you do have the cooking exposure, which creates the risk of fire loss. So the company is going to be rating and considering the construction of the facility that you occupy. And this is also where one of those operations where it becomes critical to understand when the wiring was last updated. What kind of fire protection equipment do you have? Do you have the automatic shut-offs if you're doing commercial cooking or deep frying and those kinds of things? Spoilage would be something else that might be of a concern for a restaurant. The spoilage of your food, should you have outage or what have you. So those are just some starting points, and depending upon, dishonesty is another exposure that's becoming very real in that business operations. You've got people operating in your cash drawers. And so what if you have an employee that takes a little bit more out than the change that they're to give to the customer? So you want some protection against some dishonest acts in that instance as well. So those are just starting points for that kind of operation. To the matter of contractors, we now refer to them as artisan contractors. And of course, there are very many categories: plumbers and electricians and those kinds of things. And there are actually some policies out there that are tailored specifically to those operations and make it a better fit for perhaps considering an insurance policy of that type. But the key thing is to take a look at, we have some people that are very skilled at doing many things, but we encourage you to sit down and analyze and your projection of revenue. Where are your sources of income coming from based, matched against your skill set and what you think you can effectively deliver. And once you do that and you ask for a quote on those, then you have to make the decision, oh, well, installing tile over here, is costing me more money and I'm probably not going to get but 2 jobs on doing that in the next 2 months. So is it the best choice for you to take that on as an operation? So I encourage particularly new business owners to take a look from that analytical standpoint and decide, take baby steps. Start with those things that bring great income potential to you and that is affordable to insure.
No, that is great information. We appreciate your time. We've got some folks who have also appreciated your presentation. This comment, come on, enjoy your executive desk area. Well, Ms. Kirby, thank you so much. We've put your website in the chat, but tell us one more time how to get in touch with you.
Okay. We're in the 4th Avenue Business District, downtown Birmingham, but you can call us at 205-251-1009 or email us with kirbyinsure@aol.com. And in the subject line, if you would just simply say new quote inquiry and be sure to put your responding contact information there. We'll be happy to respond.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been How Do I #Get Business Insurance. We are sure to have you back, Ms. Kirby, at some point. And I hope everyone looks at this. This will be available via YouTube and replay. You know how to get in touch with Ms. Kirby and others and actually know how to look at it. And the big thing is, you spend so much time and so great at making money. You don't want to lose that money for haphazardness, right? Protect, your assets, protect your hard work, protect all of that stuff. And I'm so excited for those who came on this series. So thank you so much, Ms. Kirby. We're about to do the church announcements now, but thank you so much. And
I'll close with this one statement. I want you all to recognize that in this current climate where people are hungry and have needs, it creates a climate of litigious activity. And so people are willing to sue for whatever. And this is where it's important for business owners to recognize this and make sure you have some protection.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, and that's right. And that's why we need to get insured because folks are coming and we can't have folks just, take it. So thank you so much, Ms. Kirby. We're about to do the church announcement. And we will see you soon. So thank you again for tuning in. We're coming to you every Tuesday. Think about this, keep what you earn, do it today because tomorrow truly will be too late. Next Tuesday, it won't be on StreamYard, but get the Facebook event. We're partnering with the new Girl with Google coach of Birmingham, how to grow your business via YouTube. We've been a Grow with Google partner for 2 years and so glad to the home team, Carmen Mays, for getting that. And so we'll be rocking with that. And then, of course, right after that, we'll have financial planning, just a whole bunch of stuff. So stay tuned to this series, like, share. Now, here this church announcement. Next week, we'll be talking about the Civil Rights District and Switch Master Plan. So I want everyone to go to nwbhamplan.com. I'm putting it in the chat. We want to know your thoughts about what the district should look like, how it should feel, what type of buildings you want, what type of programming you want. All of that is super, super important. So do that and make sure you jump in on the Zoom next week from Wednesday, Thursday. And also, finally, Be Birmingham. This is Black History Month. Absolutely. We want to continue to have Black history in the making. So we know that Be Birmingham is a great program for you to take advantage of. you can apply now, but also look at blacklisted. So if you want to support Black-owned businesses, we've got 400 plus Black-owned businesses in the region, listed nonprofit, so you do that. With that being said, we're excited to have you. We'll check in with you next Tuesday, and y'all enjoy the snow day. I mean, that's really all else I can say. And as you know, as our custom, we're gonna leave you with a video. Y'all be good.
I don't know about you, but this is exciting. And I guess you have to actually sit in my office and see me praying and crying all at the same time, trying to figure out how we can create a better opportunity and create a place that I believe builds on the legacy that so many people fought, bled, and died for, to be just embraced as a part of the overall vision and inclusion of the city of Birmingham. So this is indeed a great day